You're invited to imagine what's next. What the next view you wake up to will be. Where your next adventures will start from. Your perfect space to entertain. And your sanctuary to unwind in. As you begin to imagine your new place, we'll be here to help you find it. Because nothing compares to what's next. Sotheby'sRealty.com.
Our government is working with an approach to development that is all-round, all-pervasive and all-inclusive. Sarvangin, Sarvasparshi or Sarvasamaveshi. It covers all castes and people at all levels. We are working to make India a Viksit Bharat by 2047. For achieving that goal, we need to improve people's capability and empower them. Our vision for Viksit Bharat is that of prosperous Bharat in harmony with nature, with modern infrastructure, and providing opportunities for all citizens and all regions to reach their potential.
That was Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presenting a sixth straight budget on 1st February. Today on the Urban Agenda, we decode the interim budget to map key highlights for urban infrastructure and livable cities, which are an absolute must for India to achieve its ambition of transforming into Viksit Bharat. Joining me today are Rajiv Kumar, Chairman Pahle India Foundation, former Vice Chairman NITI Aayog, also with us Shailesh K Pathak, Secretary General FICCI, and G. Hari Babu, President NAREDCO. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. Before I get into the discussion, just a few key highlights for our audience. These are the macro highlights. A nominal GDP growth of 10.5%. Of course, this dovetails with the growth of 7%, which was mentioned in the State of the Economy report by RBI, making India one of the fastest growing economies of the world. Highest priority has been given to fiscal consolidation to bring it down to 5.1% of GDP from previous 5.4%. Capital expenditure outlay to be increased by 11% to about 11.1 lakh crore rupees, and social sector spending on 10 major schemes is rising slightly to about 12% of GDP. Mr. Kumar, I'm going to come to you first. You know, everybody was worrying that it's an election year, so it's going to be a populist budget. Do you believe that the budget has been able to manage that fiscal consolidation and growth, the two big asks?
No, I think so very much, Manisha. And also I think that the government is, the Finance Minister, the government has shown really ample courage to not pander to any constituency, not have any populist schemes in the in this budget, and actually to bring down the fiscal deficit to 5.8% of in the previous year, and then to 5.1% in the next year. And for that they've had to reduce some expenditure, which was inevitable to be able to do that. But the good news is that the tax collections and the tax buoyancy, both of the direct tax and of the indirect tax, has been quite good, and it's really improved over the years, over the past 2 or 3 years, as a result of which the cuts have not been that severe, and they are able to continue with the thrust on the capex, on the which, as you announced just now, and also maintain a reasonable enough growth for the social sectors. So in all, amazing budget in some sense, and as I wrote in my article today, it shows a twin confidence. One, that the economy is on a roll, and two, that they probably declared electoral victory already.
All right. I think that's been the general consensus. Shailesh Pathak, what did you like about the budget, and did you find anything missing which you were hoping to hear?
Thank you. On behalf of FICCI, most of our 260,000 businesses across India, our members, are in cities. So we want business-friendly cities. And ease of doing business has improved dramatically. We have seen today, for instance, UPI is between India and France, so you can buy Eiffel Tower tickets, as the Honorable Prime Minister said. The second thing was, the focus on housing. So under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, in rural areas, of course, 30 million houses have already been completed, and 20 million more will be built. But the special thing for urban areas was those living in rented accommodation or in slums or in chawls or unauthorized colonies will get special benefit for their own houses. The research and development a fund of 1 lakh crore is essentially a 50-year interest-free loan, as good as a grant, in fact, better. And this will again go to a lot of our members staying in cities. Overall, physical, digital, and social infrastructure has gone up. And I like the focus on spiritual tourism in passing, because spiritual tourism, as we know in India, is very, very high in numbers. In fact, it outstrips any other form of tourism.
Okay.
Finally, I wish there was some discussion of the unused home stock in cities. You know that there are more home owners, there are more home renters than home owners. And a lot of these home owners keep their houses locked up. In a city like Mumbai, 25% of the, last I remember, were flats that were locked up. Now that is criminal in a place where people need housing. That's my first reaction.
All right. Mr. Pathak, I hope that, this is just the interim budget and some of this will go back to the Finance Ministry, and the empty stock of homes is a critical one that they can take up. All right. Before I go to Mr. Hari Babu, let's take a look at the Housing for All mission, which actually did find a prominent mention. And for our audience, what Shailesh also just referred to, housing scheme for middle class currently renting, living in slums, unauthorized colonies to buy or build their own houses. Of course, it's not outlined what exactly will this be, because you cannot announce any big schemes before elections. But the indication is there that intention for Housing for All, an additional 2 crore houses to be built under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, that's for rural. But let's come back, Hari Babu, on housing. I know that the industry came out with a long list, but none of it was expected because those are policy changes. There are no details yet on housing scheme for the middle income group, but one assumes, and it has been indicated by the Prime Minister, that it will be in the form of some financial incentives. Do you believe that will be good enough to actually encourage house ownership, considering house prices are absolutely out of whack in big cities now?
Yeah, good evening to all. Particularly when we are talking about Tier 1, Tier 2 cities, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana amounts are too small because the land prices have gone up so high the last 10 years by 4-fold to 5-fold. Even in some cities, it is almost 8 times the land prices are increased. See, upper circle, all the houses are sold. Upper circle means more than 1 crore to 2 crores of the apartments. The increase of number of units is 15% more compared to the 22 system. Whereas affordable housing, the number of units sold almost 15% lower. So the reason is the 45 lakhs amount, what the government has fixed the rate for LIG, that 60 square meters, the affordable housing. The problem is no builder is able to construct within the 45 lakhs. So it is land prices are coming almost like for 25-20 lakhs per 1,000 square feet apartment.
Hari Babu, you've put the finger on the problem that you did have a CLSS scheme for homes up to 45 lakhs, but it's impossible for builders to build homes in that amount. Okay, we'll come back to that big problem, and that's again something that perhaps is to be looked at in the full budget, which will come after elections. I'm going to just quickly look at some of the announcements for urban infrastructure, because then I will go back to my panel. Now, e-vehicle ecosystem to be strengthened by supporting charging infrastructure. Now, that has been a big demand of the industry, that you have e-vehicles, but you don't have enough charging infrastructure, so people are not enthused to actually switch to electric vehicles fast enough. Greater adoption of e-buses through payment security mechanism, expansion of metro rail and Namo Bharat, which is of course the rapid train system in large cities, transit-oriented development is key element of urban transformation, and rooftop solarization of 1 crore households to receive up to 300 units of free electricity per month. Some will be rural, some will be urban. This is not just for urban. Dr. Rajiv Kumar, at NITI Aayog, you've done intensive work on making our cities livable. And all of this seems to take our cities to become more sustainable and more green. My question is, are we moving fast enough on all these parameters of green transport?
Manisha, in a country like ours, which has to increase its per capita income exponentially and at the same time reduce its carbon footprint, quite significantly, we can never move fast enough. And the faster we go, the better we are. But the fact is that also we are doing a lot already to make our cities, greener, to make our urban infrastructure greener. The promotion of electric vehicles, the charging infrastructure, the solarization, the encouragement to renewable energy, 30% of all energy being renewable by 2030, and all of that is actually making the transition to a green urban living better, much more feasible than what it was in the past. Now here, I think the most important thing is also to start giving some incentives for green building, because you can create colonies now, I know, which are carbon neutral, which can even be carbon positive. And I think if we start off by that, with the state governments or the central government making a pitch for that, I think that'll go far enough. The other point, of course, is that in the encouragement to public transport and moving away from the model of private transport, I think that's critical. And there, the expansion of the metro system, the metro rail links, and also now the electric EV public buses, I think the sooner they come, the larger they come, the better off we are. And finally here, a lot of attention is given to metros. But the 450 million people who are going to move into the urban centers are going to move into tier 3, tier 2, and then tier 1 cities, and not just metros. And I think they deserve more attention than what they can give. But all of that is actually the role of the state governments. And I think this is where what you need to do is to create a kind of a mission, with the central government and the state governments together in it, because this has to be a joint affair. Because the central government can't alone achieve what is needed to be achieved.
Absolutely. And wherever you see a metro, it is a partnership between center and state. In fact, in this interim budget, like Mr. Pathak mentioned, there is a support of state governments, 75,000 crore as 50-year interest-free loans for state governments. So that's a big one. Shailesh Pathak, come in here. The last metro is one thing, but again and again, most of the urban transport experts that I speak to, they turn around and say, the rich are not moving to the metro or any public transport because you don't have last mile connectivity. What are some of those things which probably maybe the budget cannot address, but we need to look at to actually have cleaner, greener transport in our cities?
I think that's a very fair point. And before I come to cleaner, greener transport in our cities, let me just make 2 quick points. All the viewers here, when they went to school, their city was half the size it is in 2024. And the frightening thing is 20 years down the line, in 2044, the current population of whichever city you are in will double. So as my good friend and predecessor in FICCI, Dr. Rajiv Kumar said, no amount of supply is big enough. We need as much supply of transport as possible. Cities will double in population over the next 20 years. And therefore, no amount of supply is enough. Number 2, what my friend said about land prices going absolutely crazy. We need lower land prices. And without lower land prices, housing will just be unaffordable for most of the lower income population. And we have a very simple solution for that. We'll come towards that in the end. but clean and green transport. Cities are building more flyovers and are building more 10-lane roads, but that is like loosening your belt to reduce your belly fat. The only option is to get people from cities, from their cars, into shared transport. And how cities globally manage it is either they tax the hell out of the car, the private car that is, or they restrict the issuance of private cars. In a city like Delhi NCR, all projections say that the driving speed is going to decline precipitously over the next 10 years, the way car populations are increasing.
All right. It's a whole new discussion on, taxing private vehicles, but we will come back to that. I think the bigger conversation is how do you provide for housing for all in cities? Stay with us. We'll get some answers to that.
You're invited to imagine what's next. What the next view you wake up to will be. Where your next adventures will start from. Your perfect space to entertain. And your sanctuary to unwind in. As you begin to imagine your new place, we'll be here to help you find it. Because nothing compares to what's next. Sotheby'sRealty.com.
By 2050, India is likely to see 850 to 900 million people living in urban centers. Now, if the goal of the government is to become a Viksit Bharat, or India to become Viksit Bharat 3 years before that, by 2047, then our cities have to upgrade quite rapidly. Shailesh Pathak, you were speaking about housing for all in cities when homes have become really out of budget for most middle-income Indians, and lower middle, you can forget about it. One idea on how to solve for this problem?
Actually, two. One is there should be a tax on locked up houses.
That
and
you've
some
said,
cities
all
like
right,
Barcelona,
you've said that already.
Some
That's
cities
only
like
in Mumbai.
Barcelona have a scheme where the city government buys locked up houses at the circle rate. So that's not a bad idea. This will incentivize people to let it out on and use that stock. The second is a lot of Benami land as well as property in urban areas can easily be flushed out using Aadhaar authentication. But the problem is you should use Aadhaar for the buyer and not for the seller.
Okay.
For a limited period. Let's say up till December 2024. So that there's a sudden rush of Benami sellers getting rid of their properties by December 2024 or December 2025. And actually real estate prices come down because of that.
All right. Hari Babu, your idea, you said builders cannot build homes at prices of 25, 30, 40 lakhs. In fact, builders are only building homes at 75 lakhs to a crore and calling those affordable. 60 lakhs is now affordable. Tell me, what do you want? Cheaper land from the government?
No. Actually, every city is having, in the heart of the city, Hyderabad, like the city, are 170 slum areas, and it is a horizontal constructed. These slum areas go for the redevelopment, and the settled people can be only 25%. 75% land is available for government, and which can be given to the only for the affordable housing people costing less than 35 lakhs.
That's a great idea.
Basically, the amount of land available in the slum area is good enough to take care of the needs of today, from horizontal development to vertical development, almost 30% of the people. That is number one. Number two, it took about 1901, the population is 3 crores, the urban population. Today is 45 crores. Next 20 years, it will be 90 crores. The increase in the next 25 years is 45 crores. That means every city becomes 3 crores to 6 crores, or 2 crores to 4 crores. How much money you want to put in the same city and make the people life very difficult? And
so
up to 2001,
you expand, you build other cities, tier 2 cities. I'm cutting
greenfield cities, 100 greenfield cities has to be planned in India for next 20-25 years requirement. Each city should be at least for 20 lakhs population.
That's
so
a fair point. That's a fair point, Hari Babu. Unfortunately, I have to go to Dr. Kumar and get his views also. Dr. Kumar, lots of land locked up with PSUs. We've been talking about it. Why not release it? And every time the government auctions land, it wants its pound of flesh and really auctions it expensive.
No, absolutely right. And I think from NITI Aayog, we had made a detailed proposal for what we call asset monetization, which was essentially about selling the land that PSUs hold very often now in the heart of the city. So that's one very good idea that you can do, and you can increase the supply of land. The second point, Manisha, is that why not increase the FSIs many folds in most cities, in every city possible. And then when you increase the FSI, improve the public utilities like public transport, the water, all of that system, because that's the way to go. Because unless you grow vertically, there's no way that you can grow horizontally and meet the needs of the fast urbanizing urban population.
Dr. Kumar, it should have happened, and for a long time in Hyderabad, prices did not rise because they don't have an FSI limit. But unfortunately, even that's becoming an expensive city. Anyway, these are problems that we have to solve, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me. Good ideas, and hopefully we'll get to hear some of those solutions in the full budget post-elections. Well, Viksit Bharat is only possible if we get our urbanization right. Thank you so much for joining me. Goodbye.
You're invited to imagine what's next. What the next view you wake up to will be. Where your next adventures will start from. Your perfect space to entertain. And your sanctuary to unwind in. As you begin to imagine your new place, we'll be here to help you find it. Because nothing compares to what's next. Sotheby'sRealty.com